Madigan. We're always learning and growing and more than open to correcting ourselves.
Okay, by the way, we also use bad words. This is your explicit language warning.
Sorry.
Tune into your Angry Neighborhood Feminists on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And we encourage you
to rage on.
Tonight, our guest is Kirsten Kennedy. She's running for Congress from the 8th District in Minnesota. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, we're glad to have you with us. We're very excited to talk about Minnesota with you. My first question is if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come to be running for Congress in Minnesota?
Certainly. So I have been in Minnesota for a large part of my life. I am Norwegian-born, American-raised. My father is an immigrant from Norway. And when my parents split up, my mom stayed in California and my father married Kathy Oddie from White Bear Lake, Minnesota. So I spent 3rd grade until 8th grade living on Fawn Lake in Minnesota. And then I went to high school and spent into my early 30s in California, and then moved to Minnesota when I have 5 children. When I was pregnant with my 3rd Canute, we drove cross country and bought a small hobby farm in Cambridge Township. And so that's how I ended up in Minnesota, stay-at-home mom, 5 children, military family that was actually out of active duty. My husband, John, was in the military, and he was recalled for Noble Eagle, so we left Minnesota for 2 years in Tampa, Florida, and then 3 years in Naples, Italy. After divorce, I came back and sold the farm and started college at 45 and graduated at 52. And I actually never thought I'm going to grow up and be in politics. As a matter of fact, I would argue that I probably thought I would never be involved in politics, but I came to run for office after getting involved in some community organizing around issues that were important for me. Keeping our police department local, saving our senior center, keeping 650 semi-trucks from coming through Taylor's Falls, which I call the Laguna Beach of Minnesota. It has one street where everything is, and it would come through Wisconsin to Minnesota to North Branch, and it would destroy their economy. And so that was something, and I fought for. And then I realized that part of the issue is that some of our local politics, including North Branch, had some corruption. And it was a great deal for a small amount of people rather than a good deal for our entire community. And so I ran for mayor in 2014 as a progressive single mom, and miraculously I won. And I just am serving my 2nd term, and the first 2 years was very challenging. I just learned that you never show any emotion. It's like with your kids, right? If they see any weakness, it's like sharks with blood. And you just work really hard to we are in big debt in our city. They got into the real estate business years ago. And so it's tempering getting out of debt, but still making sure you can maintain a community that is attractive to families staying here and to new people moving in. And so that's how I got involved in politics.
Excellent. And so can we talk a little bit about the 8th Congressional District? So this is currently represented by a Democrat, but he's retiring.
Yes.
And it looks like this has been a little bit of a swingy district in somewhat recent years, and the seat's never been held by a woman, if Wikipedia is telling me the truth.
It is the truth.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the district is like and what you see in the constituents there?
We're 27,000 square miles. I'm in North Branch, the city of Wyoming, Minnesota, which is about 2 cities south of me, is the most southern part of our district. It goes all the way up to International Falls, and it's pretty thick. And so it has a lot of different regions and cities. One of the things is we have 5 of the 10 poorest counties in Minnesota are located in the 8th, and the median starting wage is about $12, and we are the poorest, the lowest in all of our 13 counties in Minnesota's economic region. So we have, I call them pockets of poverty. So in districts where, for instance, in Chisago County, we have some areas that make really high incomes, and then the poor areas kind of get rolled into those high incomes, and it does not give a real picture of the area. And so, for instance, in Duluth, which is the largest city in our district, you have half of the population does okay. I'd call them perhaps the middle class, if we want to argue it still exists. And then half is living in poverty. And along the entire district, you see that. So in the Iron Range, for instance, which I know some people think is our entire district, including sometimes leaders. However, the district is vast and wide, and everywhere has a lack of housing, affordable housing, lack of affordable senior housing. A lot of our businesses have a hard time finding employees. I know we all think it doesn't exist, but it actually does. And we have areas at the economic development that perhaps lived on mining or doing other things. And when the economies changed and automation came in, they didn't know what to do. And so it really takes a comprehensive look at the entire district. And I think that's one of the attributes of women is we're able to consider many things at the same time and not just consider one small area when we make decisions. And so you are correct. It's a lot of conservative areas, including Chisago County. We're one of the most conservative. And you will see patterns where it was Democrats in control. But when the Tea Party came in, it seemed like what I believe happened is they started in the local races, so school boards and city councils and counties. And then they moved people up to the state level and then to running for federal office. Now, Stuart Mills, which is from the Mills Fleet Farm, ran against Nolan in the past 3 campaigns. And so there has been, Nolan's been hanging on. It's gotten more difficult. And I have been told numerous times that a woman will never be elected in this district. I know that's a shocker.
It's the year of the woman, though.
It is.
And so that's actually a reporter. Saturday, I'm going to be reading through, like Jimmy Kimmel does on his show, the mean tweets and the mean things people have said. There are questions that never get asked of my male counterparts that are asked of female candidates. I note that female candidates, when I was asked to run for this race, first I thought I was being punked. And second, I said, can you give me 2 years because everything has to be settled and perfect? And then I said yes. And then I said yes. So it is a challenge. And I have even been told by women, you know, you're really smart, you're great on policy, but a single mom with 5 kids, I just don't know if that would be something you could overcome. And I said, well, I am a single parent of 5 kids. I started college at 45 and graduated at 52. I am someone that does not respond well when I'm told that I can never do something. And so that's my response usually.
Just makes you work harder.
It does make me work harder. And when we have discussions, this was another reason for me to run, is my oldest is 27, Jordan. She's a teacher. She teaches Arabic in Utah. And I went hiking with her after I was at the State of the Union. And I was asked not really to talk about it, but I thought, I'm in Utah with my daughter hiking. No one can hear us. And she goes, Mom, you need to do it. And I had all of these reasons not to. And she said, if not now, when? If women don't run, then we never get elected. Mm-hmm. And I know that 19% of our Congress is female. There's a reason that the policy is made for men. And I would like the policy to be made for everyone. And if we don't change that, we don't have a seat at the table. And so there are many barriers to women candidates running. And I think I've learned about 60 so far. However, I think that it is true that if we don't try, then there is zero chance of us winning. And perhaps it takes women candidates running for office, and right now we have a record number in the United States, and I look forward to more women at all levels in politics because I do believe it is what will move my district and our country forward.
Mm-hmm. So one of the issues that's big in the news right now is immigration. And I know you've written a piece on Dem Right Press about refugees and ICE. So it's interesting to note that your district actually has a border with another country. Of course, that country is Canada and not Mexico, which is a border that we focus more on. How do the constituents in the 8th District think about immigration? Is immigration something that is on their minds, that is concerning to them? What does that look like in the 8th District?
Here's what it looks like for me. So as a leader, and that's what I always say when I speak, I'm not here as a Democrat or a Republican, as an independent, because I believe when you lead, you have to lead for everyone in your district. Minnesota has about 80,000 Somali immigrants, and they are centrally located in a couple of places, including Duluth, but they're also scattered throughout our district. And so as a daughter of an immigrant and someone who was born abroad, for me, the issue, and I get pushed back sometime, well, we're not on the Mexico border, so why would you talk about it? And so I first bring in a little history, I bring in the human rights, I talk, and then I talk about ICE, which I would like to see abolished. And I know I've heard that people say that's a very radical view, but the truth is it's only since September 11th, since we've seen ICE in the way it performs now. And I have watched over the years ICE since September 11th, and it has always been concerning for me. It has never been more concerning for me than to see children in detention centers. And I really believe that at any level, any human being, when they hear of tender care centers and kids taken from their parents to use as a chip, but more importantly, how they are in those detention centers and how it affects children for the rest of their lives, the discussion opens up for me that it's wrong, period, to do that. So that's my first step. But then I segue into talking about what it means for the U.S. and the U.S. economy to actually do the right thing with immigration, which for me would be bringing our undocumented 11 plus million immigrants into our economy, which when I've read a lot of economists, which I'm not, but ones that I found to be credible, they talk about, the additional 1.5 trillion plus in our GDP and the taxes that will get paid. More importantly, we are aging in my district, and we are going to have a worker shortage over the next 5 to 10 to 20 years that is not going to be filled by the young people aging up in Minnesota. Our birth rate is not high enough to keep us going in Minnesota, and I would argue that even if people say, and I want to say undocumented because I don't believe a human being can be illegal, and our history, if you would all believe in the American dream or America and our history, we have had immigrants. We all are immigrants unless we're an indigenous person in the United States. And so when you talk about that and you talk about the money that gets spent on ICE, and I'm not talking about taking away border and customs, but the way ICE operates now, it is, I want you to know, it reminds my dad, who was 2 when the Nazis invaded Oslo and 8 when they left, and lived a life of trauma, and then went into the military in Norway to actually go against and protect from Russia, not only Norway, but all of NATO and the Allied forces. He says that it wasn't fast, it was slow, and things happened like they're happening now. And I want my country and a place for my kids to grow up that believes that humans are the most important thing, and we honor a covenant